She threw my suitcase like it was a sack of trash. It hit the front porch steps of our small Columbus, Ohio home with a dull, heavy thud. The cheap zipper I'd meant to fix burst open, spilling my clothes onto the damp wood. My favorite reading glasses tumbled out and skittered to a stop by the dying hydrangeas I used to water every morning. I stared at the mess. Soft-sided, faded blue, the same suitcase I'd used when I moved in 5 years ago to help her raise her baby. Back when she cried every night for sleep and every morning for strength. Now, my daughter, Sloane, just stood there, arms crossed. Her face was sharp with something colder than the October air. Indifference. "You're holding us back," she said. Her voice was flat, practiced. "Me, Brent, the kids. All of us. You've made this house your prison, and we're done being your inmates." I blinked. No tears came. I was far past that. She wasn't done. "You have 3 days to leave, Mom." "I'm serious. I've already talked to Brent. We're changing the locks on Friday." I looked down at the suitcase. One of my beige cardigans was hanging out, snagged on a splinter. My hands didn't shake, but hers had when she first begged me to move in. Back when her life was in ruins, her credit was shot, and she hadn't had a real paycheck in months. 3 days, I said quietly, standing upright. "Don't make this harder than it is," she said. "Harder for who, Sloane?" "For all of us," she snapped. But the edge in her voice wasn't conviction. It was the sudden, brittle fear of being questioned. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just walked past her down the steps, bent over slowly, and began stuffing my clothes back into the broken suitcase. She didn't move to help. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the scrape of the zipper. I stopped by the curb, pulled up my phone, and dialed one number. "My bank." "Yes," I said to the automated menu, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'd like to speak to an agent about a joint account." A polite woman named Maria answered. "Hello, my name is Clarissa Hale. I need to immediately freeze account number 881-2. I am the primary account holder." "Is this a fraud alert, Mrs. Hale?" "No," I said, watching Sloane turn and close the front door, shutting me out. "It's a family matter. I want all automatic debits suspended, and I want my monthly pension deposit rerouted to a new, private account." "Ma'am, that will freeze all funds. The secondary user on the account, a Sloane Hale, will not have access." I looked at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone. A woman I barely recognized. "I am aware," I said. She wanted freedom. I'm just giving her a taste of it. The motel I found was off I-71, tucked behind a gas station. It smelled like stale smoke and industrial cleaner. The comforter was a hideous shade of burnt orange, and the light in the bathroom buzzed like a dying insect. I laid the suitcase on the bed, unzipped it properly, and shook my head at the way she'd packed. She'd just grabbed handfuls, mixing my socks with my medication, my nightgowns with old photographs. No care. No thought. She had folded me out of her life like a cluttered, inconvenient napkin. I sat on the stiff mattress and let the silence of the room swallow me. This wasn't just about me being a burden. This wasn't about me holding her back. This was about shame. This was about 5 years ago. Sloane was 24, working as an office manager for a high-end dental practice. She was smart, charming, and trusted with everything, including the company's finances. The call I got wasn't from her. It was from a police detective. She had been embezzling. Not a little, not a mistake. It was a calculated, desperate, year-long theft. She'd been feeding a severe online gambling addiction she had hidden from everyone. The amount was $184,000. Her boss, a kind man she had called her work dad, was devastated. He was ready to press charges. She was looking at felony grand larceny. Prison time. A record that would shadow her for the rest of her life. I didn't even hesitate. I drained my 401k, every penny I had saved for my own retirement. I took out a high-interest home equity loan on my small, paid-off condo. I paid back every single cent to the dental practice in exchange for their silence. They signed an NDA. No charges were filed. I sold my condo to cover the loan. My life, my security, my future, gone. I moved in with her and her new baby, Leo. The deal was simple. I would co-sign for a new house, because her credit was non-existent, and she would go to therapy. She would get clean. My pension would cover the bills she couldn't. She cried for a week. You saved me, Mom. You saved my life. I'll spend every day making this up to you. It turned out, every day had an expiration date. 5 years. The gratitude soured slowly, like milk left out on the counter. For the first year, Sloane was a model of remorse. She went to her meetings. She doted on her son, Leo. She called me her guardian angel and the only reason I'm alive. I cooked, I cleaned, I paid the mortgage from our joint account, and I poured my love into my grandson. It was, for a while, a quiet, healing life. Then, 2 years ago, she met Brent. Brent was a crypto consultant who wore expensive sneakers and talked about disruption and legacy. He was ambitious, slick, and he had no idea about Sloane's past. He just saw a beautiful single mom with a nice house in a good neighborhood. Sloane didn't tell him the truth. She couldn't. She was rewriting her own story. She told him I was just helping with the baby and that I contributed my small pension. Brent saw me as a freeloader. A burden. He saw his future in my house. I remember the dinner last month. Brent was talking about his plan to leverage the equity in this place to fund a new venture. I made the simple, quiet comment, "There isn't any equity, Brent. We just have the mortgage." His face tightened. Sloane, who knew exactly what I meant, flushed with anger. Not at him, but at me. "Mom, please don't be negative," she snapped. "You don't understand this stuff." Later that night, I overheard them arguing in their bedroom. "She's a black hole, Sloane," Brent hissed. "She's just old energy. She's holding you back from your potential. It's our house, not hers." I know, Sloane whispered, her voice desperate to please him. "I'll handle it. I promise." I sat in my small guest room, the room I'd been in for 5 years, and I finally understood. Sloane wasn't just embarrassed by her past, she was terrified of it. She hated me. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because I was the only person left on earth who knew the truth. I was the mirror she couldn't bear to look into. And Brent? He was the man who was giving her permission to shatter it. On the third day, I was sitting in the motel room eating lukewarm soup from a styrofoam cup when I got a text. It was from my sister, Judy. "Clarissa, I think you need to see this. I'm so sorry." It was a link to a Facebook post. It wasn't from Sloane. It was from one of her new, high-vibe friends, a woman from her yoga class. The picture was a selfie. Sloane, Brent, and a group of about 10 people, all clinking champagne flutes in my backyard. The garden I had planted, the patio I had swept every day, was the backdrop for their celebration. Brent had his arm around Sloane, who was glowing. The caption, written by the friend, read, "So incredibly proud of my girl at Sloane_Hale for finally choosing herself. Partying face celebrating her fresh start and cutting out the toxic, parasitic energy in her life. Onwards and upwards, Queen. #boundaries, #new beginnings, #freedom." I stared at the word. Parasitic. My blood went cold. I clicked on the comments. They were a chorus of fawning praise. Yes. It's so hard to prune those dead branches, especially family. Took you long enough. Glad you're finally free. Wait, is this about, you know who? The one who was living in your guest room? Sloane herself had replied to that one. Just a single, telling emoji, woman shrugging. A parasite. Dead branches. You know who. I thought of the $184,000. I thought of my sold condo. I thought of the 5 years I had spent cleaning her toilets, raising her child, and covering the mortgage on the house she was now toasting her freedom in. The grief I had been feeling for 3 days curdled. It evaporated, leaving something hard and cold and perfectly clear in its place. Rage. A quiet, righteous rage. She wasn't just kicking me out. She was erasing me. She was rewriting history, painting me as the villain in a story where I had been the savior. I set my phone down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Okay, I whispered to the empty motel room. You want a new beginning, Sloane? You want to be free of the dead branches? Fine. Let's see how well you grow when the roots are gone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the hard-backed motel chair, the glow of the vacancy sign painting the room red every few seconds. I wasn't grieving. I was planning. At 9 a.m., I made my second call. This wasn't to the bank. This was to my lawyer. Alvin, I said, my voice as calm and flat as a winter highway. I need to start a partition action. Alvin, a man who had handled my simple will years ago, paused. A partition action, Clarissa? That's a lawsuit. That's what you file when you want to force the sale of a property you co-own with someone. That's exactly what I want, I said. But, this is against your daughter. The house in Westerville? The very one. Alvin sighed. Clarissa, this is a serious, aggressive move. It's expensive, and it will permanently destroy your relationship. Are you sure you don't want to try mediation? Family counseling? She threw my suitcase on the porch and called me a parasite, Alvin. She's changing the locks on Friday. I think we're past mediation. I explained the situation. The original $184,000. The fact that I hadn't just co-signed the mortgage. I had paid the entire 90% down payment in cash, from the sale of my condo. Sloane was on the loan, but I was on the title as a tenant in common with 90% ownership. It was the only way the bank would approve the loan, given her history. Sloane had forgotten that part. She'd forgotten that my name wasn't just a guarantee. It was the foundation. Alvin was silent for a long moment. My God, Clarissa. She doesn't just have a cosigner. She has a primary investor. Exactly, I said. And this primary investor is liquidating her assets. A judge will order the sale of the house immediately, Alvin said. The property will be sold at auction or on the open market. You will get your 90% equity back, plus interest. She will get whatever is left, which won't be much after fees. I am aware, I said. She will be homeless, Clarissa. Her and the children. A pang of guilt hit me, but I crushed it. She made me homeless, Alvin. She has 3 days to find a new place. I'm just making it official. I'll draft the paperwork, he said, his voice now all business. A process server will deliver the summons to her tomorrow. She'll be served notice of the lawsuit. Thank you, Alvin, I said, and I hung up. I looked at the picture of my grandson, Leo, that I kept in my wallet. Grandma's not a parasite, baby, I whispered. She's the bank. The first 2 days were quiet. I used the time to find a small, furnished apartment for rent. I paid the deposit and first month's rent in cash. I was done with motels. The storm broke on Friday morning. The day she was supposed to change the locks. My phone rang. It was Sloan. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again, immediately. I let it go. A text message popped up. Mom, pick up the phone. Now. Another one. What did you do? My card was just declined. A third. I'm at the grocery store. I can't pay. Where is the money? She was at her fancy organic co-op, I imagined. I pictured her, humiliated, her cart full of $10 kale and artisanal cheese, unable to pay. The joint account, which my pension fed, was frozen solid. The automatic mortgage payment, scheduled for that same day, would have bounced. I waited an hour. Then I called her. She answered on the first ring, not with hello, but with a shriek. What did you do? You stole my money. You drained the account. I did no such thing, Sloan, I said, my voice calm. I was sitting on my new, very small sofa. I simply rerouted my pension into my new account. The account you froze was a joint account. I just unjoined it. That was our money. For the bills. For the mortgage. Brent had to pay for the groceries on his card. It was so embarrassing. Yes, I said. I imagine it was. But you told me I was holding you back. You told me to move out. I assumed that meant you were ready to handle your own finances. You can't have it both ways, Sloan. You can't kick me out and keep my pension. She was sputtering. This is unbelievable. You're punishing me. You're doing this just to be cruel. No, I said. You wanted freedom. This is what it tastes like. It's expensive. You should call the mortgage company. The payment bounced. You'll need to handle that. I'll just transfer money from my savings, she snapped. You do that, I said, knowing full well her savings were non-existent. She was still arrogant. Still full of fire. She still thought this was about a few $1,000s in a checking account. She had no idea the real storm was still on the horizon. You'll regret this, Mom. You've started a war. I hung up the phone. My dear, I whispered to the empty room. The war was over before you even knew it had begun. The summons was delivered at 4:30 p.m. on Friday. I knew because Alvin's office sent me a notification. Service of process successful. I imagined the scene. The doorbell ringing. Brent, annoyed, opening it to a bored-looking man who asked, "Are you Sloan Hale?" "No, she's my girlfriend." "What's this?" "She's been served." My phone was silent for 2 hours. I imagined the confusion, the frantic reading of dense legal documents. The words petition to force sale, Clarissa Hale versus Sloan Hale, partition of real property. I imagined the dawning, sickening horror. At 6:45 p.m., my phone lit up. Sloan. This was not the angry shriek from the grocery store. This was a sound I had not heard in 5 years. The sound of pure, unadulterated panic. It was the same sound she'd made when the detective read her the embezzlement numbers. "You're suing me?" she screamed, her voice cracking. What is this? Forcing a sale? What does this mean?" Brent is looking at me. He doesn't understand. "It means exactly what it says, Sloan," I said. I was standing, looking out my new apartment window at a small, concrete courtyard. I am dissolving our partnership. I am cashing out my 90% stake in the house. Your 90%? What are you? You co-signed. You're a co-signer. No, honey, I said, and the endearment slipped out, cold and sharp. I was your savior. I paid the $184,000 you stole, remember? And then I paid the $350,000 down payment on that house from the sale of my condo. You paid nothing. Your name is on the title as a 10% courtesy to help you rebuild. I am now calling in my investment. The silence on the other end was a physical thing. I could hear Brent's voice, muffled, in the background. What is she talking about? What $184,000? Sloan, what is she talking about? You're destroying my life, she sobbed. You're making us homeless. Leo. Leo loves his room. You're taking Leo's home. Stop, I said, my voice like steel. Do not use that child. You did this. You stood on that porch, full of Brent's arrogance and your own entitlement, and you threw me out. You called me a parasite in the house I paid for. She stammered. The bank will be in touch, I said. A judge will order the sale. The house will be on the market in 30 days. You have my permission to cry. Now, I have to go. I'm making dinner. I hung up before she could say another word. The world Sloan had built, the one balanced on my silence and my money, collapsed in a single night. Brent, the man who talked about legacy, was not a man built for hard truths. He was a man built for easy equity and good-looking girlfriends. The revelation of the $184,000 wasn't just a shock, it was a betrayal that recontextualized his entire relationship. He didn't call me. He didn't need to. I saw it all unfold 3 days later. A U-Haul truck was parked in the driveway of the house. My house. I wasn't there to spy. I was there to pick up Leo from kindergarten. Sloan, unsurprisingly, had forgotten it was her pickup day. As I was buckling Leo into his car seat, Brent came out of the house, carrying a box of his expensive sneakers. He saw me and froze. His face wasn't angry. It was just empty. Hollowed out. He's leaving, Leo said matter-of-factly, pointing. He and Mommy were yelling all weekend. I know, baby, I said softly. Brent walked over to my car. He looked older than he had 3 days ago. She's not who I thought she was, he whispered. No, I said. She's not. Embezzlement, he said, shaking his head. She let me think you were the problem. That you were the leech. And the whole time, I was the one paying for the roof over your head, I finished. He winced. She's inside, just crying. Saying you ruined her. She ruined herself, Brent. She just used me to break her fall. Well, he said, hoisting his box. There's no one left to catch her. I'm out. I can't be with a liar like that. He walked to his truck without looking back. I watched him go. I felt no triumph. Just a deep, profound sadness. I drove to my new apartment with Leo. As we were making cookies, my phone buzzed. It was Sloan. He's gone, she whispered. Her voice was dead. Brent left me. He took his things and he's gone. I saw, I said. You did this, she hissed, the venom returning. You took him from me. You told him. I told you, Sloan. He was just in the room. The truth has a way of finding the light. What am I supposed to do? She cried, the desperation finally breaking through. The bank called. The lawsuit, it's real. They're putting the house on the market. I have no money. I have no job. I have nothing. You have your freedom, I said quietly. The freedom you wanted so badly. This is it. This is what it looks like when you have no one holding you back. 2 weeks passed. The for sale sign went up on the lawn. It was a court-ordered sale, so it was fast. An open house was scheduled. The neighbors, who had seen me watering the hydrangeas one day and gone the next, were whispering. Sloane had been a ghost. She didn't call. She didn't text. I had Leo with me. She had simply stopped. Stopped picking him up, stopped answering calls. I had to file for emergency temporary custody, which the court granted instantly, given the legal petition and the foreclosure. One night, there was a knock on my new apartment door. It wasn't a loud knock. It was a soft, tentative, broken sound. I looked through the peephole. It was Sloane. She looked terrible. She was thin, pale. Her hair was greasy, and she was wearing the same sweatshirt I'd seen her in a week ago. She wasn't the glowing queen from the Instagram post. She was a refugee. I opened the door, but I kept the chain on. "What do you want, Sloane?" "Mom," she whispered, and her voice cracked. She looked past me, into the warm, clean apartment. She could probably smell the spaghetti sauce I was simmering for Leo. "Mom, please." "Please what?" My voice was hard, but my heart was breaking. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. The words just fell out of her, collapsing onto the doormat. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did it. I hated that you knew. I hated that you saw me when I was weak. Every time I looked at you, I saw the woman I'd failed." She sank to her knees on the walkway. He made me feel strong. He made me feel like that person wasn't me. And you were the only one who knew that person was exactly me. I had to get rid of you. I had to, or I'd lose him. And now I've lost everything. The house. Him. Leo. I've lost everything. I looked down at my daughter, crumpled on the concrete. The woman who had thrown my life onto the porch. "It was never your house to lose, Sloane," I said quietly. "It was my retirement. And you didn't just throw me out. You tried to erase me. You called me a parasite." "I know," she wept. "I know. I'm so sorry. Please, Mom. What do I do? I'm sleeping in my car. I have nowhere to go. Please, don't let me be on the street." This was the moment. The moment I could either be the savior she'd always counted on, or the woman she'd forced me to become. I unhooked the chain. I opened the door, but I didn't hug her. I didn't pull her inside. I stepped out into the hallway and sat on the top step of the stairs, next to her. "Get up," I said, my voice softer now. "Stop crying. Crying doesn't fix this." She wiped her face, snot and tears, on her dirty sleeve. "I have nothing, Mom. I have $20. I'm not your enemy, Sloane," I said, looking out at the parking lot. "But I'm not your savior anymore. That woman, the one who would drain her life to fix your mistakes, she's gone. You threw her out, remember?" Sloane just nodded, her shoulders shaking. "The house sells next week," I said. "It's a cash offer. I will get my money back. My lawyer estimates that after all fees, your 10% stake will be about $28,000. That will be wired to you." Her head snapped up. $28,000? "It's the last handout you will ever get from me," I said. "You will take that money. You will not buy a car. You will not go on a vacation. You will use it to rent the cheapest, cleanest apartment you can find. You will use it to buy a bus pass. And you will get a job. A real one. Waiting tables, answering phones. I don't care. You will go back to your Gamblers Anonymous meetings. You will start paying the child support that the court is about to order. And you will earn your son back. She was staring at me, her eyes wide. This was not the mother she knew. Can't I just stay here? With you and Leo? No, I said, and the word was final. This is my home. And you are not welcome in it. Not yet. You can see Leo. You can come here on Sundays for dinner. But you have to be sober, you have to have a job, and you have to be in therapy. You don't get to be a mother to him until you stop being a child yourself. I stood up. I have $200 in my purse. I'm giving it to you. It's not a gift. It's a loan. You will pay it back. Go to a motel. Get a shower. Buy a newspaper. Start over. I went inside, got the money, and handed it to her. She took it, her hand trembling. Mom, she whispered. Do you hate me? I looked at her. My daughter. The one I had held, the one who had betrayed me, the one who had cost me everything and was, still, my only child. No, Sloane, I said, and I was surprised to find it was the truth. I don't hate you. But I'm done protecting you from yourself. I already saved you from one accident. This one is yours to survive. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I leaned against it and listened to her walk away. Inside, Leo was playing. The spaghetti sauce was simmering. My home was quiet. It was small. And it was, for the first time in 5 years, entirely, blessedly, my own. I wasn't just holding a boundary. I was holding my peace. And I was, finally, free. If you find this story more interesting, please like, comment, and subscribe.